And you don't find it frustrating that you can't pursue other things while you're doing it?
Not really, but the most frustrating part is not passing the bar. The California bar is just horrible. It's a nightmare to go into, especially because I wasn't born here, so my first language is not English. Taking the bar exam in California is just very hard for me. I almost always do not finish it in time. And I think it's because most of the time when I read something, I translate it in my head.
Right.
You know, so I'm not as fast as others. So it's really frustrating that I am already, I think, at the age where I should be already. Should have already checked this box, but I'm still not there.
Okay, so but there is a huge difference between the law exam in the Philippines and the law exam here.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So the the bar exam in the Philippines, it takes 4 Sundays, I guess. I can't remember which month, but it's every Sunday, and every Sunday you know what the subject that you're gonna take. So you kind of like, you can study that whole week and just focus on those subjects. Although right now I know that they are changing it, but during my time. And in California, during again my time, because they have changed it, it's a 3-day exam, like, you know, one after the other, and then 1 day is just multiple choice. So, and it's all subjects, you don't know which one, everything. And then the next 2 days will be essays and a performance test, and again, you don't know which subjects. So I think that's the harder part. You don't know what you're gonna get, and sometimes the questions are even like interconnected. So it could be a question about civil procedure with a little bit of contracts, with a little bit of torts. So but I think it's very practical because sometimes the cases are like that.
Okay, so now I'm sure a lot of people will ask, especially those that are interested in becoming a lawyer here. Isn't multiple, because here majority of the test would be multiple choice, right? There's just like a small portion on essay. But in the Philippines, it's the other way.
Yeah, it's all essays, although now I think they are incorporating multiple choice too.
Okay, but isn't it supposed to be easier if it's multiple choice? When we were students, we wanted multiple choice.
Yes, that's right. I think it's hard for me because of the time constraints. You have 3 hours to answer 100 questions, basically. So it's 6 hours for 200 questions. And because I translate it in my head, it really boils down to like only, you know, I think 2 minutes to answer, analyze, to read, answer, and analyze and answer everything. So that's why it's hard for me. These multiple choice questions are like 4 paragraphs questions, and the answers are like 2 paragraphs each selection that you have, see each option. So it's really long, it's really tricky, and that's why it's really hard for me.
Right. Because a lot of people, especially those that are not familiar in the legal profession, they think that being a lawyer is all about being in the courtroom, fighting for the rights of the wrongly accused and stuff. But here there's actually a belief, or probably even in other countries, that the best lawyers don't ever make it to court.
Yes.
They do not allow the case to get to court. Those are the best types of lawyers.
Yeah, because if you are able to find a good, you know, or you are able to convince the other party of the settlement amount that your client deserves, why do you need to go to court?
Right.
Sometimes it is better to be in court because, especially if the case is so much bigger, you really want the jury to decide how much the settlement that they're willing to give the client. But you are correct. There are so many other things that lawyers do behind the scenes that you don't see on TV, you don't see in court, because all of them revolves on negotiating, communicating, writing. and exchanging all that information with the other firm.
Okay. So let's just do like a brief, because it is expensive to go to court.
Yes.
That's another thing why a reason why a lot of lawyers actually avoid going into court. So let's just do like a brief 101 on the different terminologies they usually hear. What's a deposition?
A deposition is a form of discovery where whoever is being deposed or called, will sit there and is being interviewed.
So it could be the accused or the accuser.
Yeah, it could be the plaintiff. You're in a civil case. It could be the plaintiff or the person who is injured, or the person who is defending. The defendant. Yeah.
Okay.
It could also be a witness. So a witness can also be called to be deposed.
Okay. A settlement would be.
It's the amount that a person will get from the other party in order to close the case.
Okay.
Or the claim.
All right. And then what's the difference between pre-litigation and litigation?
So pre-litigation, especially in personal injury, is any of the tasks, any of the client is still not going to court. So there is no lawsuit filed yet. So everything is being done without the court's intervention. So like in personal injury, you are dealing with the insurance adjuster instead of the another law firm. Right at that point, it is the insurance company who is representing the person who is driving the car that hit your client. In litigation, you file a lawsuit and that is filed against the actual person, not the insurance company. So basically, you file a lawsuit, they will be represented by another law firm. Usually that law firm is with the insurance company too. But now there are formal documents that you need to produce. There are deadlines. You have to really follow the procedure that is outlined by the court.
Okay. You mentioned earlier when I asked you about a deposition, you mentioned the terminology discovery.
Mm-hmm.
What is a discovery and what is it used for?
So discovery is exchange of information. So basically, you have to provide information about your client, and at the same time, they have to provide information about their client. So there are certain things that what you call form interrogatories. This is a document that outlines the basic questions that each party has to answer. So discovery, there are different types of discovery. So there are the form interrogatories basically, which is you exchange documents, and then there's also deposition, which you go in person or via Zoom now, and they actually ask you the questions.
And in any of this, you cannot lie.
Of course, yes.
What happens if you lie?
Well, you can get sanctioned by the court. In there's what you call perjury too. So that's the worst case. If they find out, and they can ask the judge to sanction you, and the lawyers can get sanctioned too.
Okay. Perjury is the case that
It's when you lie under oath.
okay. All right. So if you lie, you better pray you don't get one.
Basically. Yeah, it's hard to lie because it just connects, and before
Right.
you know it, you have to remember all the lies.
Right. But it does happen. Some people actually lie.
Of course, yes.
Right. Okay. So, the all those terminologies became so popular because of the Johnny Depp
Yes.
trial.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yes, of course. I did.
I was watching Camille. I think one of the most fascinating moments of that case to me was when she kept on objecting to the questioning of the other party. And at some point, the lawyer just went on trying and trying. It's like, were you supposed to say that out loud?
I think I've seen that episode.
I'm like, I don't think you were supposed to say that out loud. And I just felt so. Of course, I admired Camille so much. Obviously, she has proven that she's a very good lawyer. At the same time, I feel bad about as just as an opinion, because we don't know either of
Yeah,
the parties.
yeah.
Do you think it was that Amber was a bad client, that she wasn't following the advice of the law firm, or that it was just bad advice that she was given?
I think that that case is really, well, of course, my opinion. I don't know
Right.
Amber or Johnny, Johnny Depp, you know, personally. I think that her case was, there's not much evidence to it, so all of the lawyers did was basically run their defense based on what they have, which is not a lot. I mean, Amber was saying, oh, I gave that, on this day Johnny did this to me, did this, you know, and Camille was asking, where is that? Where's the picture of that? And she always respond with, I gave it to the lawyers. Oh, my lawyers have it. Why did the lawyers not produce it? You know, if they have it,
Right.
then it must be not good for their case. And I'm sure, you know, because it's a big controversial case, I'm sure they made their practice they practice for this.
Right.
For the actual trial, and sometimes things just don't go according to your plan. You know,
Right,
you
right.
tell your client, you know, you need to only. This happens a lot too. Like our attorneys will say, you need to only answer yes or no. Don't elaborate. But when you're there, you know, you're emotional, you're stressed. You just want to like say everything, and that could be what happened too.
Right. Okay, so let's leave them behind.
Yeah.
We don't know any personal information about them. All right. In your opinion, you think that it's the language barrier that's keeping you from becoming a lawyer here? Has it ever been a cause of, I have an accent, you haven't? I think when you grow up in another country, that's just a given. Was it ever a source of discrimination? You felt like you could have done better job-wise, or had you been born here?
I think there would have been better let me rephrase that. I think that I could have started earlier if I was born here. I think that my understanding of of how the bar works will be better because I would have studied here, instead of like, you know, everything that I'm learning to be able to take the bar, it's mostly reviews. I didn't really take those classes, so I think that time-wise, I probably would be younger and hitting some of my goals earlier. In terms of discrimination, I do have an accent, and as you know, my biggest language weakness are pronouns, because the Filipino language does not have, you know, pronouns. There's no he or she. Everything is the same gender. You know, like it's one. So people would sometimes be confused if I'm referring to a he or a she, because I am confused too. We mix it up. Do I get discriminated for that? Maybe a little, you know, especially in the beginning. A lot of the people that I worked for before Topher, I worked for little, you know, other companies like short terms until I finally found Topher. There was even an instance where they asked me if I knew how to use a computer, and I said yes, I do. And he said, oh, but it didn't even, like, he was saying it almost like he really didn't know. He told me like he thought that in the Philippines we use calculators as computers, and I had to tell him no. I'm at that time I was already. This was I would say 2008. This is the time of iPhones. You know, we had iPhones in the Philippines. I was born in the 1979, and on 6th grade I was already using a floppy disk. So it was really shocking to me that he asked me if I knew not how to use a computer, but what a computer is.
Right. But you didn't feel like it was an insult. You felt like that's just how he perceived or she perceived.
Yeah, I think, it's maybe it could be insulting to some people, but I've always been a great believer of myself. So I just think like, if they just don't know me,
Right.
if they knew me, they would ask.
And I have to say, many Filipinos are like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that could be said, and other people will take offense in our behalf. And to us, it's like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
You just say no. That's now you know.
And you know what? I want to credit my husband too, who is Mexican American. He really taught me during 10 years of marriage with him that don't ever like take things personally. Some of it are just said, but not against you personally. And I learned to really let go of things that are not important. We Filipinos can be really sensitive as well. And I think like being here in LA, being married to someone who's not like that, who is really in a lot of ways my opposite, I learned that, don't stress on things that you cannot control, because there really isn't anything you can do. And that really helped me a lot, like doing my job, because I just choose my battles. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Getting yourself worked up in things you can change or control is an absolute waste of time.
Yes, your energy, right?
You can keyboard smash for all you want, but if you're not going to make a difference,
Yeah,
it's an absolute
yeah.
waste of time. There is a lot of problems in the Philippines we can deal with that we know we can change. So we would rather deal with that than concern ourselves with a lot of the things that are really not important here. Do you feel now that things are even in the playing field in the law firm in Topher?
In Topher, yes. I mean, it's basically a firm run by women.
That's
Aside
true.
from the owners, almost everyone, if not everyone in the management is a woman, and a woman of color too.
Right.
So I think in Topher, yes, it is an even playing field, especially for immigrants and females like myself.
Do you feel that's not the case for other law firms?
I think that in the legal world in general, it's not. It's a man's world. It's a white man's world. If you go to conventions, 80% of the speakers are men, and the women that are speaking are almost always the same women that you have seen last year, 2 years ago. And the reason for that is because it's really hard to get there. And these women are the ones who are able to
Get there first. But why do you think it's dominated by white male men?
I think
White male.
I think because men are usually more aggressive, and working in the legal field really requires at most long hours. Most of the time you have to work long hours. It's very stressful. And though I do not agree that being a mother should hinder you, there are times that some women are being passed on for promotions or for management positions, or even for like a higher position, because they cannot work as the same long hours, or because they have a kid at home, or they got pregnant and stuff like that. It's just a reality right now that.
So just to clarify, what she's saying is that they get passed on in promotions, or sometimes they don't get the big cases, not because they are women, but because they spend less hours working, because as a woman certain responsibilities come with the gender.
Yes.
Or with the sex.
Yeah, with the sex.
Yeah, with the sex. So if you're a mom, naturally you want to be there.
Yeah, especially if you have a newborn, you have to be there. You have to take maternity leaves if you are pregnant.
Yeah.
So there are certain responsibilities that come with our being women that does not allow us to work as much as our male counterparts. Yeah.
So it's not because of the gender per se. It's just that there are things that women need to do. There are certain responsibilities that come with the sex, and as a result, you don't work as much as men. So has it improved though?
I think it has, because there's a lot of female voices are becoming louder, or people take notice.
Okay, so I hope you learned a little something, but I will close with some more like fun little questions. One is, what is it that you miss in the Philippines?
I miss that the city really never sleeps, even though that's New York.
Right.
The Philippines, especially Metro Manila, it never sleeps. Everything is open 24 hours.
Yeah.
Bars, fast food, even the malls close 11, 12 midnight.
Right.
There's always something that you can do. I think that's what I miss the most.
Right. Do you plan on retiring in the Philippines, or you don't see that? You're here.
Yeah, because my husband's not Filipino, and also, having lived here for more than a decade now, I think the lifestyle has really changed for me. I cannot, for the life of me, drive in the Philippines, or I'll be in an accident every freaking hour.
I was there for a vacation in April, and I swear I have to all the time close my eyes when I'm in the car, or I will end up yelling at everybody.
Yes,
I'll probably get into a fight or something.
Yes, and the traffic is even worse than LA. So
I can't, like you, for the life of me, understand why people won't stay in their freaking lane. There's you can see the lanes. There are lanes. Use it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you do have a huge project which is Samakanan.
Yes, so Samakan Caravan started during the pandemic because, as you know, most of the restaurants have closed, and my husband, being a professional chef, he lost his job. So we were trying to find a way to, of course, earn money, and at the same time, bring his food out on the streets, and that's why the caravan started. We started inviting the other vendors, small, home cooks with small businesses, and we started bringing everyone's food and marketing them in social media so that the Filipino community can go to one spot and have access to different kinds of food. Because at that time, really, you can't order food outside because everything is closed, and then you're not supposed to really go outside. And I'm sure they were already getting tired of their own food at home.
So this is your brainchild. So what happens is every couple of weeks, maybe, or maybe every week, they would go to different locations. Locations. So it could be in one city, but then different locations. And then there will be different vendors there, different foods, and then you can come in, you can order, you can pre-order. And where do they find the schedule of that?
We now have a website. It's samakanaevents.com. We have the calendar there, so you will see all the upcoming events, where they are, and if you are a vendor, you can also register there.
Okay. What is the huge plan? What's your big plan for Samakana?
The big plan is to have, an association of vendors and hopefully one day we can have our own spot. I know that Samakana Caravan started with the goal of visiting different cities every week, and now we're doing twice a month. We visit 2 different cities because it's just becoming so big. But at the same time, other caravans have already started theirs too, which is great, because now, different cities can be visited in, the same hour, same day. But my biggest goal is for us to be able to have our own, storefront basically, where these small businesses can have access to a professional kitchen, because that will really help them with permits, with licensing, with health department.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hope someday we can have our own festival.
Yes, you know.
Yeah, it's, I think one of the things that makes me jealous of the Koreans, of the Japanese, is how active they are in promoting their own culture here.
Yeah.
They never alter their culture. They never alter their way of life or their belief. Even when they're in another country, and they're so organized.
Yes, that's
The Filipinos are so disorganized.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good intentions, but they're
Yeah.
very disorganized in our efforts. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, thank you for coming here. So if you want to follow Eliza, just so when I first met her in the law firm, we called her Liz. And then later on, she told us that the only reason she actually got the nickname is that there's another person in the law firm
That kept calling me Liz.
Yeah, so
But my name is Eliza.
Yeah, so Eliza. If you want to follow her, all of her social media links should be on the screen right now. And that includes Sama Ka na Caravan events.
Yes.
And say hi to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.